Hello and welcome to Learn Danish Now 365. My name is the Nordic Educator. I will guide you through the Danish language, step by step, calmly and clearly. Let's begin with some common Danish verbs. At nade, archaic, to pardon, to forgive. At nar, to trick, to deceive. At navngive, to name, to christen. At negligere, to neglect, to ignore. At nedbryde, to break down, to decompose. At nedkæmpe, to defeat, to overpower. At nedlægge, to lay down, to abolish. At nedskrive, to write down, to record. At nedtage, to take down. At nedvurdere, to underestimate, to undervalue. At nedsætte, to reduce, to decrease. At nægte, to deny, to refuse. At nære, to nourish, to cherish feelings. At nærme sig, to approach, to get closer. At nærstudere, to study closely, to examine carefully. At nedsmelte, to melt down. At nedtone, to tone down. At nedvære sig, rare, to condescend, to humble oneself. At neje, old form, to nod, to bow. At nippe, to sip, to nibble. At notere, to note, to take note. At nyde, to enjoy. At nyse, to sneeze. At nægte sig selv noget, to deny oneself something. At nærme sig slutningen, to approach the end. At navngive et barn, to name a child. At nedbryde muren, to break down the wall. At nedkøle, to cool down. At nedrive, to demolish. At nedskære, to cut down, to trim. At nedsætte prisen, to lower the price. At nærme sig far, to approach danger. At nærme sig nogen, to get close to someone. At nyde livet, to enjoy life. At nyde godt af, to benefit from. At nytte, to be useful, to benefit. At nå, to reach, to achieve, to catch up. At nå frem, to arrive, to reach a destination. At nå at gøre noget, to manage to do something in time. At nedkaste, to drop, to throw down. At nedfælde, to write down, to record formally. At nedtrappe, to reduce gradually, to scale down. At nedvokse, rare, to grow smaller, to shrink. At nyde en sejr, to enjoy a victory. At navne, rare, to name, to designate. At nægte adgang, to deny access. At nedprioritere, to deprioritize. At nedtone forskellen, to tone down the difference. At nære mistanke om, to suspect, to have suspicion of. At nyde sammen med, to enjoy together with. Learning Danish is not about perfection. It's about practice, patience, and progress. Keep listening. Keep repeating. You're building not just words, but confidence. Thank you for learning with Learn Danish Now 365. Let's continue this journey, one word at a time.